Ciao y'all. Hi, welcome to Making a Musician. It's me, your host Helen, and my little co-host Mendelssohn. Okay, today we're talking about imposter syndrome. Now, people tell me often, Helen, you're a gorgeous woman, incredibly talented, very accomplished, flawless individual. What would you know about imposter syndrome? And to that I say, nothing. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so imposter syndrome plagues all of us, and I think that people in the creative, world kind of have a lot of trouble with imposter syndrome because we're just like required to get up and like stand in front of our work and kind of like, look at this amazing thing I made. Isn't it amazing? And it's really hard to do that when you're doubting yourself. Had to take a second. There was like a leaf blower moment. So I just had a second there, had a hot girl introspection moment. But like I was saying, it's really hard to stand next to your work and be like, I really love this is perfect. And that's a big part of your job as a creative, is kind of like backing yourself and promoting yourself in that way, and that's really tricky to do. So hi, my name is Helen, and I have some pretty bad imposter syndrome, and I'm not here to tell you how I cured my imposter syndrome, because that would be a lie. I haven't. I don't know that there is a cure for imposter syndrome. It's one of those things where as I've gotten older and become more aware of it, it's getting better. But, from the mentors I have in my life, it doesn't seem like it goes away. Everyone I talk to and I like look up to talks about having imposter syndrome. So I think it's something that like we are all collectively struggling with and suffering from. I can't tell you how I've cured my imposter syndrome because I haven't, but I can tell you how I've learned to live alongside it and still get things done that I am really, really proud of and really excited about. And I think that that is worth sharing. I have had imposter syndrome my entire life. Like, I remember as a child just like always feeling like a failure, always feeling like a mess. And I remember just like throughout my life kind of feeling like, well, I can't let people get too close because if I do, like they're gonna figure out that I'm an idiot and that I'm a failure. Am I an idiot and a failure? Sometimes, yeah. I mean, that's normal. Like, we all do dumb things and we all fail. That doesn't make you a terrible person. And yet a lot of us don't want to admit that. A lot of people seem to go through life just pretending like they've never made a mistake and they've never messed up, and I don't understand that. These people want you to look at their successes, but they don't want you to see the giant mountain of mistakes and failures that they had to climb to get there. And I feel like this gave me the sense I was the only one failing. Like, everybody else was doing so good, and I was the only one ever messing up and making mistakes, and everybody else was perfect, and so that meant something was wrong with me. I really used to look at people and I used to think like, oh my gosh, like they're doing so much better than me. They're so much smarter than me. Why is everything so much easier for them than it is for me? Like, there must be something wrong with me. I must be bad. I must be a failure because this just like nothing comes naturally to me. This is really funny to me because people tell me a lot like, oh my God, you just like have your life so together. Like, you're so organized. It's really funny because like that's not the case. I understand that that's very much like an image that I project. I also am a hot mess and a disaster, and I'm very clear about that with people because that's just how life is. This is more of a recent development. What I used to do is just be like, oh, thanks, and I wouldn't say anything. And I think that one of the things that has really helped me overcome my imposter syndrome and like be able to function in spite of it is just saying like, oh no, like, you think I have my life together, but you don't see the giant pile of laundry that I've been needing to do for the last 2 weeks. And like, just like kind of owning the fact that I'm not perfect and things in my life are falling apart just like in everybody else's life. And that way I don't get scared and I don't get this sense that like, it's just a matter of time until they all figure out that I'm like a hot mess idiot. Because I'm very clear about the fact that like sometimes I'm a hot mess idiot. It really helped me when I got to hear other people talking about this same thing. One of the people that I see talk about failure a lot, and that really like helped me on my journey to like being good with failure and like not having imposter syndrome just like crush all of my dreams, is Brene Brown. She talks about failure a lot, and seeing somebody who is so objectively successful talk so publicly about failing really helped me internalize this knowledge that it's okay to fail. Failure is inevitable, so like, let's have some fun failures. I always tell this to my students. I always say like, I don't care if you make a mistake, but like, we need to be making new, more exciting mistakes. You know what I mean? And that's also kind of how I try to live my life, even with imposter syndrome. Hearing Brene Brown talk about failure was really helpful. And another thing that was super helpful with my imposter syndrome was just like hearing about and watching times that my like idols and mentors have failed was incredible, because I think that we oftentimes like look up to these people and we see them as almost being superhuman. So seeing them mess up and like struggle really is very eye-opening for me. I used to put so much pressure on myself to sing perfectly. Like, if I had a performance and every note didn't come out just right, just the way I wanted it to, And like, fun fact, it never did. I thought that had something to do with my self-worth. The thing that helped me overcome this is a little funky, but I'm gonna share it anyways. And it is a video where Pavarotti cracks the hell out of some of the high notes in A Mes Amis. And I just kind of was like, oh my God. I remember the first time I watched this tape, and I watched it over and over again because I couldn't believe it. The first time I watched that tape, I was just like, oh my God, Pabs, the king of the high C, just like splitting that C in half. And I'd never seen anything like that before. It just kind of made me realize, like, if Pavarotti can crack and struggle in a performance and everybody still like loves him and they're not like, oh, you know, Pabs, you know, he was all right, but he had that one night at the Met in like, you know, the 80s, really fought for his life in the 9C aria, so I guess he wasn't that great. Nobody says that. He had an off night and nobody cares. And it made me kind of realize that like I can feel the same way about myself. And that helped a lot with the imposter syndrome. You're allowed to have a bad day. And seeing Pavarotti struggle like this, it like led me down a path of seeking out videos of my like idols failing, and it wasn't in a malicious way. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I really want to see like Joan Sutherland crash and burn, like, no, but it was really exciting. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, like, they are human, they're not gods, and sometimes things don't go their way, and that's okay. And if they can have a rough time, so can I. Okay, so let me drive this point home again, because I think this is like one of the big roots of imposter syndrome, and that is, it is okay to fail. Until somewhat recently, I thought that failing meant I was bad and it was unacceptable, and it made me like, literally, like, I thought failing made me a bad person. Like a bad person, and also made me bad at my job. So let's like shift this perspective and stop seeing failure as a negative and start understanding it as a positive thing, because it is. Like, failure means that we're trying. Failure means that we're trying something new and we haven't quite gotten the hang of it yet, but we're like on our way to getting there. How could that be a bad thing? Once I changed the narrative that I was selling myself about failure, I think that things got a lot easier. I also wasn't so afraid to try things. When you're afraid of failing, you're not gonna try new things, because new things are really hard and you're probably gonna be pretty bad at them in the beginning. And like, that's normal. Not being good at something doesn't make you an imposter. It just means that you're new, you're on your journey, and you're just like not at the destination yet, which is fine. The final thing that really helped me to overcome my imposter syndrome is changing my inner monologue, like changing and addressing my negative self-talk. In the past, I was not nice to myself. I had a dialogue just like running all day, and I was telling myself about how bad I was at everything and what a failure I was, and that I was a bad person and I was a loser, I was an imposter, and that did not make me feel good. That did not make me feel good about myself or ready to show up and do my best work every day. Once I realized how negatively these stories that I was telling myself were affecting me on a day-to-day basis, I decided that I needed to change. I didn't start telling myself I was amazing. I didn't start trying to like sit in front of the mirror and tell myself that I was beautiful and perfect and stunning and I had no room for growth, and I didn't try to like gaslight myself into being like, I'm a flawless individual who is perfect in every way. That's not true. I am a deeply flawed human being. All human beings are deeply flawed. It is our nature, and that's how that works. So get okay with that. But I decided to tell myself instead, like, no matter how bad what I just did was, like, and we're talking artistically, like, we're not killing people, we're talking about like the high C didn't sound good. That was okay, because I was doing my best. And doing my best in every moment was enough. That's valiant enough. Like, that is good enough for me. If I show up and I fail and I did my best, that's okay. Like, as long as I tried my best. If I showed up and I failed because I didn't prepare and I didn't do all the things that I know I need to do, then I get kind of annoyed with myself. But if I showed up and I know in my heart that I gave it my all, then I can go to bed that night, I'm okay. The fact that my best is enough, no matter how good or bad it might be, is a great story. I can get behind telling myself that story all day long. Be nice to yourself. It's really hard to show up and try your best every day and go to bat for yourself every day when you're being your biggest bully. Let other people bully you. Let them take care of it. They've got it under control. Find mentors and people who really believe in you and care about you, and just try and surround yourself with people who see what you're capable of and want to help you uncover that. I think that's a big step. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you found this helpful or you enjoyed this content, maybe consider subscribing and joining the community. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much. Bye.